Yes, recording is started. You can write your roll numbers in the chat box. Yeah, right. So, good morning. Hello, can someone respond? Is this audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I hope the screen is visible now.
Yes, sir.
Right. So, this was the topic of our discussion yesterday in the last lecture. So, can someone tell me what is an embedded system basically? So that we will be able to understand the hardware and software structure. This is the hardware structure, in fact, and very soon we will discuss about the software structure as well. But before that, I need some response uh, for embedded system. What do you mean by embedded system?
Combination of hardware and software.
Okay. Anything else? Is it just a combination of hardware and software? If somebody from industry asks you what is embedded system, is this going to be your response? Okay, let me tell you. There are many ways to define the embedded system actually. So one of the possible definition is we can describe it as a special purpose computer designed for specific application, right? So this is another definition of embedded system. It is a special purpose computer a special purpose computer designed for specific application, right? So we can refer this as an embedded system. It has a processor, right? So this will have a processor. If it's having a processor, and if it's having a some sort of memory and output devices, we will call it as a controller as well. So this embedded system will have processor or controller uh, along with provision to store the data, means along with some sort of memory, then along with some provision to interface devices, right? So that means it simply need to have general purpose input output pins. So in short, we will call it as IO ports. So there will be a provision to have IO devices. However, the idea between general purpose computer and what we can say embedded system, the boundary is not clearly defined. The boundary is not clear because general purpose computers are also having this one. What you can say processor, and they are also having memory, they are also having IO ports and interfacing capabilities, but they are general purpose and designed to perform different or various tasks, right? So some of the computers we cannot say they are embedded system, but if some computers, if they are doing some specific task, we will call them as embedded system, right? So the processor, the memory, the IO devices that power an embedded system, right? So this is what the idea about embedded system is. Now here, yesterday I told you this will be a hardware structure of embedded system, which includes sensor. If sensor producing a data in analog form, it has to be given to the analog to digital converter, right? And if it's producing digital data directly, it will go to the memory. This is first option. Otherwise, it will go directly to the processor for further processing, right? So you can observe the diagram on the slide. Analog to digital converter will convert if it is in analog form. Otherwise, the data will directly go to the processor and to the memory, right? So processor, if it's doing a processing in real time, it will directly take the data from sensor and process it. And if the real-time applications are not required, in that case, the data stored on memory is taken into the consideration. After that, it will process the data and it will produce the output, which will drive this digital to analog converter. A digital to analog, digitized form of an signal, analog form of signal will drive the further circuitry like actuator or let's say drivers, etc. Right. So this is basically hardware structure of an embedded system. Now, one example I would like to give you here. For example, if an embedded system has to execute some, let's say, has to execute control algorithms for an internal combustion engines, let's say. So for internal combustion engines, its IO ports will be customized, or you can say customly designed to allow interfacing with sensors. Now, what sort of sensors will be required in internal combustion engine? You will require the temperature sensor, you will require the pressure sensor, and you require actuators such as injectors or throttle or cadles, right? So its memory will be tailored to accommodate only the control algorithm. So simply the memory will get the data from sensors, and its processor will decide the action. Its processor will process the data, and it will guarantee that it will select the appropriate action to guarantee that correct timing, behavior, and algorithm will work properly. So this embedded computer will be expandable actually, and if a new application is developed, this embedded computer will adopt it accurately. It will adopt it precisely. So in internal combustion engines, we have sensors, then temperature sensor, pressure sensors, and the output is like actuators like injectors and throttles. So this is another example of embedded system. This is what actually the same thing which I have described on the previous slide. Now, this is point of discussion, today's discussion. The basic software structure. We talked about hardware a lot, right? So whatever hardware part is there, I have described. Now, this software structure, if I go back and if I show you the components of software or the platform and then the software that we have here, this is what all about embedded system only, where it is divided into two groups, application and platform. Platform consists of hardware, about which just now we have discussed. And now we will talk about the software. The software will have three basic components: bootloader, operating system, and system program, right? So the software will have those three components. Now we will discuss those three components in detail here. So this is basic software structure of an embedded system. Very important part as far as embedded system in IoT is concerned. Now, here this software structure is, as I said, divided into three basic components. One is system program, one is operating system, and third one is boot loader, right? Now, this operating system will have different layered architecture inside. So at operating system, you will have device drivers, you will have memory management system, you will have network management, you can have process management, then virtual file system and system call interface. These are the layered structure of operating system which works at the back end, right? So let's discuss every layer, every type of this operating system. So the first part of this is bootloader. As I said earlier, a bootloader is a program that is required to execute or that is required to be executed at the startup, at the power up. And I told you it is an in charge of initializing the hardware, right? So this is this bootloader is the program responsible for initialization of the hardware, and it will enable the operating system as well. This is another feature added here. So bootloader is responsible for initialization of hardware, and it will also enable the operating system and other sub system programs as well. So bootloader is responsible for initialization of hardware. Then it will enable the operating system as well as some part of that system program. So bootloader is very important. Now let me tell you one thing. If the bootloader cannot be erased, in fact, from the hardware, somehow if you erase the bootloader, the complete hardware will go down, right? The hardware will become useless. This is why we can say that while the rebooting, or let's say suppose you are trying to do hard reset of your mobile phones, but you can have some hard reset button on mobile phones or laptops or tablets. Do you know there is a hard reset button on mobiles and laptops and tablets? Do you know that? Do you know that? Do you ever find this hard reset button on laptop, tablets? I think they are there in the class only. Snehal Duchal. Yes. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Snehal. And someone else who got shortlisted yesterday.
Ashwini Patil.
She's there in the class.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
After the this lecture, can you please come to the college to meet Vibhute sir? Or call Vibhute sir after this lecture.
We will call.
Yes, sure.
Okay, sir.
Ashwini Patil.
Yes, sir.
आणि सर तुमच्या प्रोजेक्ट वरचेच क्वेश्चन्स त्यांना इथं विचारले. मला वाटतं क्लोरोफिल मीटर. दॅट वॉज द स्ट्रॉंग रिझन. ठीक. So I was talking about this one, bootloader, right? Next one is operating system, and screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Operating system, as I said, is the in charge of making hardware more user friendly. This will make user to access the hardware, and it will make it a kind of user friendly environment. आता इथं ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टमचे पण बरेचसे टाइप्स होते लाईक if I remember it's DOS, MS DOS, something was like that, which was not the kind of user friendly operating system. After that, this Windows XP, then Windows, different versions of Windows came in existence, which are very user friendly. And if someone asks you what is the difference between Microsoft operating system, this Windows operating system, and this one, Linux operating system, what would be the difference? Can someone list out? Can someone tell me what is the difference between this Windows operating system and Linux operating system? Which one is more user friendly?
Linux is user friendly, sir.
Linux is user friendly. Okay. So this is third homework I am assigning. Difference between Windows operating system and Linux. Right. So you should at least write 4 points. So what we are going to do after assigning this homework? I'll tell you what we are going to do at the end of second unit. Whatever homeworks I have assigned, I will ask you to prepare the PDF file of that, and I will ask you to upload. For that, I will create a link, and on that link you need to upload all those homeworks. So don't be in an impression that sir is not taking follow-up of homeworks, or don't think that sir will not check. Right? I will definitely check. I will ask you to upload the things that you have. I will ask you to upload the things that you have completed. Hello? Yeah, ma'am. I have given the reminder for that. So I will create the homework link after second unit, and I will ask you to upload. So third homework, I hope you are remembering. So just to give the alert, can someone respond what is homework 1, homework 2? And today I have given you homework 3. The difference between Windows operating system and Linux operating system. Right? Hope you will complete it before I share the link, and once I share the link, you will upload it. So 3 homeworks I have given. So operating system, as I said, it's in charge of making hardware more user friendly, and it will allow user to access the hardwares as well. Now, next one is system programs, and I told you system programs. I'll come to this layered architecture of operating system later on, but before that, let us discuss on system programs. And system programs are a set of utilities that allow the application to access the resources provided by platform. So here, as I said, they are also a part of programs. They are also a part of utility. So when I say utility or a program or a software, it's nothing but a set of instructions written to perform certain tasks. So if you consider the assembly language program, and if you are writing some program to blink the LED which is connected to microcontroller or processor, and that blinking program, or in terms of Python we call it as script, or in terms of Arduino we call it as a sketch. Those script, or let's say sketch, is nothing but a part of utility, or it's nothing but a software, right? It's nothing but a program. It is also called as a script, it is also called as a sketch. They are just different names for the same name, for the same thing, right? So utility, you can consider it as a program or software. So system programs are a set of utilities. So here you will be having different programs that will allow your application. So where you will find this application? Yeah, here you will find this application here as one of the major component of embedded system. So this system program, which is a part of software, here you can observe this is third part of software. So this system program will allow the application to access the resources provided by platform. So whatever resources this platform is providing will be accessible to this application layer. So this application only, right? So once again, I repeat, system program will allow the application to use the resources provided by platform. So I hope it is clear. Three basic component of software: bootloader, operating system, and system program, right? Next, in the software, you can have that directly the software is interfaced with the hardware, and software libraries as well. So that will initialize the hardware and manage access to the hardware by higher layers. So here the process management, first thing is process management, which is described here in the operating system. So what is the role of process management? It performs execution. It's a process, actually. It defines the process, right? So what kind of process is defined here? It defines the execution of program, right? So that will perform the actions specified in that program. It will simply defines the execution. It will define the process. Then we have virtual file systems as well. So in virtual file system, what happens? In the virtual file system, it's another kind of program that forms an interface between operating system and other more concrete file system. This is what the role of virtual file system is, and it manages the data storage, retrieval between operating system. VFS maintains, virtual file system maintains cache memory and dictionaries. These are all rules associated with virtual file system. Then another layer which we can see here is a device driver. Now here device driver forms the interface between bootloader and operating system. Device driver is required for a specific hardware, right? So every hardware, so when I plug in the mouse, you may find that device drivers are being initialized, they are getting installed. So whenever I add a new device into the device library, its driver will get installed. And what is the role of such a device driver? Device driver is the way through which your processor actually interact with that hardware. Device driver is the bridge through which your processor interact with the hardware. So suppose when I'm using the mouse, or when I'm using the keyboard, is it going to be directly commanding the processor? No, it's not directly commanding the processor. The role of mouse or keyboard is defined in the device driver. So actions are defined in device driver. So when I move my cursor left, when I move my mouse on the left hand side, what will happen is defined in the device driver. It is not written in the processor. When I click, left click on the mouse, what will happen? The action is defined in the device driver, not in the processor. I hope it is clear. So device drivers are very important as far as hardware is concerned, and it will be interfacing unit between bootloader and operating system. Then we have two more management layers like memory management and network management. So memory management will decide all the types of memories are under control of this memory management. So RAM, ROM, all those volatile, non-volatile, erasable, programmable, all those types of memory are under the control of memory management. And this memory management unit will decide where to store what. Right? So if I'm having a data, where to store will be decided by memory. If I'm writing some program, where to execute it, it will be decided by memory management unit. So it is simply called as MMU. Lecture solve. So it is called as a memory management unit. Then we have network management. So all the configuration, network related configuration is done here. So if you remember, maybe in a computer network, you might have seen this one, configuration of network, right? So there you might have seen the different protocols, then routing, then router configuration. I think all of you have studied that in computer network. So there is a concept called as subnetting as well. So what is the role of subnetting? If somebody knows what is subnetting, can tell. There are some classes of network. How many classes are there? Which are those classes?
Class A, Class B, Class C, D.
Okay, correct. Very nice. So there are some classes, and we actually divide the different hosts or different nodes logically, right? So it will be a good thing. We assign the IP address, and we have logically divided the classes for the organization. So if I'm at SWERI, whatever devices comes under the SWERI will be divided into one class. So if you remember the IP address of our college, can you tell me which class we are using? Okay, that's fine. So
C.
yeah, C. It's class C. So small to medium organizations using class C subnetting. That means the address ranges are actually divided. And who does this actually? the network management layer that we are discussing right now here in the operating system, network management defines that. So once we configure the network, this network management ensure that the host is in that particular subnet and it is always connected, it is always available. All the things are ensured by this network management. Right. So this is the role of network management. System call interface. So some user access this complete software, system call interface will respond to the user directly. Right. So system call interface. So when you put enter on the keyboard, of course the process will initialized from the hardware. Everything you know now. I think in the 8051 you might have studied interfacing of 8x8 matrix or 4x4 matrix. So when you press any button, what happens, everything that loop and that program, everything you might be aware. So when you press the key, its appropriate row is identified, then column is identified, and once we identify row and column, the data associated with that row and column, digitized form of that data is sent further. So through device driver, it will be proceed to the proceed to a microprocessor, right? And once it reach to the processor, this system call interface is having a program to respond to that. Means what, if I'm pressing, let's say, H. So system call interface is having subroutine. When the data corresponds to H is received, system call interface will be responsible to print H on the screen. I hope it is clear. Right. So when I simply press H, it is getting printed on screen, but at the back end, a lot of programs are responsible for happening of that printing of H. So can someone just list out who will be responsible for printing that H on the screen if I hit H button? How many programs, whatever programs you are able to see on the screen, no? How many of them will be responsible to print that H on the screen? When I hit H, or let's say any button, when I hit any button, let's say H, it simply prints H on the screen. But at the back end, who are the which programs are responsible to perform this task? Can I include bootloader into the process? Is it a bootloader who contributes in the process? Yes, no, at least that much I should explain.
No.
Bootloader is not responsible. So can I remove bootloader? Is it okay if I remove the bootloader and then if I hit the H button, is it okay? So I hope I answered your no. Now someone can respond. Bootloader does have any contribution in the process? I told you what is the process. This I'm hitting H and
Sir,
yes.
initialize करायला bootloader is needed. ना?
So bootloader is required. So bootloader plays an important role. So without bootloader, we cannot do anything. Right? So bootloader is important. So bootloader plays a role. So the answer is yes. Next, device driver. Yes or no? This is what I am expecting.
No.
Okay, device driver is not required. Okay. Anything else? Can someone want to say yes? Suppose I have given you a new keyboard which you can interface with the computer, and H is to be pressed and H is to be printed. And suppose suppose your computer do not have the device driver. What will happen? Is it going to work?
No.
No. So device driver plays a role in this process. Yes or no?
येस सर. डिव्हाइस ड्रायव्हर गरजेचे आहेत. विदाउट डिव्हाइस ड्रायव्हर आपण ते डिव्हाइस कनेक्टच करू शकत नाही.
Correct. Device driver, if device driver is missing, then you cannot interface the keyboard with the PC, and hence you whatever you hit on the keyboard will not be recognized by the computer. So somebody said no, but the answer is yes. Device driver does play in the role. Next, memory management. Memory management. Does it play any role in this process? बघा, मी एक प्रोसेस सांगितली. मी एच प्रेस करतोय आणि ते स्क्रीनवरती प्रिंट होत आहे. मग ह्यातलं काय काय इन्व्हॉल्व आहे त्या प्रोसेसमध्ये? दॅट इज माय क्वेश्चन. अँड वन बाय वन वी आर लुकिंग ॲट द रोल ऑफ एव्हरी लेअर. मेमरी मॅनेजमेंट, इज इट इन्व्हॉल्व? येस ऑर नो? Yes or no? I'm expecting answer. Yes. Memory management is involved. So when I press H, a corresponding code is being sent from corresponding digitized code, you can say, is being sent from keyboard to the memory management, where it will be stored in, let's say, scratchpad registers, or let's say temporary registers, or let's say some sort of partition is which is assigned for keyboard interfacing. And whatever we hit, the history is going to be stored there. So memory management is required to store the data for each and every hardware as well. So when I click on left click, it should be stored somewhere, right? So the click and the pointer cursor position should be stored somewhere. Then and only then your processor can take the data, and based on that data, it can take the action. So when I hit H, corresponding data will be stored on some temporary registers in the memory, and memory management unit is responsible for that. After that, process management. Is it involved?
Yes, sir.
Yes, process management is also involved, because process is defined here. Actual process happens here. When I hit H, it will generate the interrupt, hardware interrupt, and the interrupt, as soon as we press H button, hardware interrupt is generator. Your CPU will be looking for the location of memory where the data corresponds to कीबोर्ड प्रेस इज बिंग स्टोर्ड. म्हणजे जिथं मेमरीमध्ये कुठल्या लोकेशनला कीबोर्डचा डेटा येणार आहे त्या लोकेशनवरती रीडिंग चालू करतो. सो प्रोसेसर विल स्टार्ट रीडिंग द डेटा विच इज being stored on the memory, and process management will define what action is to be taken against the data received at the memory management. Right, so whatever data corresponds to the keyboard press, will the process management will get to know that it is correspond to which keyboard, right? So the process management is involved. Process management will decide what action is to be taken. Next, system call interface. Is it involved? I can say that virtual file system and network management is not required for this particular task. When I press H and it's getting printed on screen, for this process, virtual file system and let's say network management is not required. What about system call interface? Is it involved?
Yes, sir. It is involved.
Yes, it is involved because in response to the action, there have to be a reaction, and that reaction will be decided by processor, and the system call interface actually gives a call to the interface. Interface in this case is screen. या केसमध्ये काय असणार आहे, ज्यावेळी एच प्रेस करतोय त्यावेळी एच टाईप होतोय, म्हणजे या केसमध्ये इंटरफेस काय आहे, the screen. So the system call interface, it will call the screen interface and it will ask to perform that task which is decided by process management. I hope it is clear. When we press H, what happens in the back end is described here. Right? So these many layers, these many roles have to be played at different layers, at different types of operating system, let's say bootloader or system programs. Next is basics of embedded systems. So we will simply start, we will just introduce the concept called as a Linux-based embedded system. And then we will stop for today. Actually, not this one, but I think next lecture is there of VLSI, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but during VLSI lecture, I will conduct test on first unit, MCQ test on first unit during next lecture. Karve sir will be busy with some other thing. So he will not be taking a lecture today. So Linux-based embedded system, this is what we are talking about, and it requires huge discussion actually. So today only I told you to complete the homework, which is difference between Windows operating system and Linux-based operating system. So part of that I will be covering today here only. So this Linux can be found in embedded systems of many sizes, from mobile, different versions of mobile phones, home appliances. Home appliances means like washing machine, lot of applications we have described. Many of you have mentioned in the chat box in earlier lectures. Vehicle infotainment systems, and even it's extending application up to international space stations. जिओची हा नाही ऑनलाईन टेस्ट झाली का? हा टाइम एक्सटेंड केला. ठीक आहे ना. आफ्टर दिस ऑनलाईन टेस्ट व्हॉट वुड बी प्रोसिजर शॉर्ट लिस्टिंग? ठीक आहे. I'll talk to HR. ठीक. का नाही ड्राईव्ह चालू आहे म्हणून सांगा ना. So many factors contribute for the popularity of Linux. I think everybody today knows what is Linux, right? And the popularity of Linux-based operating system. So there are many factors actually contribute for the popularity of Linux. So some of them I have tried to list it here. So it is a open source. This is what mentioned. It is open source, so anyone can access the Linux operating source, Linux operating system, study it, modify it according to their specific needs. आता इथं ओपन सोर्स म्हटले की पहिल्यांदा आपल्या डोक्यामध्ये येतं की फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. ओपन सोर्स डझंट मीन दॅट इट्स फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. Open source means what? Can someone elaborate on this open source word? So every now and then you are using the word open source. So what is exact meaning of open source? Can anyone tell what is meaning of open source? Okay, partial meaning of this open source is written here itself, so anyone can access Linux source, study it, modify it. Now let me tell you, whenever we talk about operating system, it's nothing but a program, it's nothing but a software, it's nothing but a set of instructions. Now when we deal with proprietary software, or let's say Windows operating system, the source code is not available for you. The source code is not given to you, right? Source code is not made public. It's not used to edit. It's not used to study it. But as long as this Linux is concerned, the source code of that operating system is made public. It is made publicly available. So anyone can get that code, anyone can access that code, anyone can study it carefully, anyone can modify it as per their needs, and after that anyone can say that I'm using this Linux and I'm performing this task, I'm creating this application, and for which I don't have to pay to the Linux distributors. But what will happen when the case suppose you try to patch, or suppose you try to crack the source code of operating system, Windows operating system, and suppose you try to develop some modifications. Suppose you are modifying the operating system, Windows operating system. What will happen with you? Even you will be able to see this on the screen. Are you able to see this on bottom left of my screen? What is mentioned here on the bottom left of my screen? Sorry, bottom right of my screen.
Activate Windows.
Yes, go to the setting and activate window. So this copy of window is not activated. So I'm using trial.
It is the version.
It's a trial version, right? And the copy of window is not a genuine, which is not a purchased one, right? So there are kind of softwares. One is open source and another one is proprietary, or for which I need to pay. So the softwares for which I need to pay, I cannot use those softwares. Yeah, illegally I can use those softwares, but if I found, they can lodge a complaint, police complaints against me, and they can ask for the compensation. Right. So for educational purpose, I'm using this, so they may not file a complaint against me. But if I'm using this Windows operating system, which is trial version, which is you can say it's not a genuine actually. If I'm using this kind of software, this kind of operating system for let's say commercial use, if I'm generating some revenues out of it, then I will be easily identified by Microsoft team, or let's say Windows team. They will easily identify me. I'm using unauthorized software, I'm generating some revenue, and I'm not purchasing the software, I'm not purchasing the operating system. They will easily find me, and they can easily lodge a complaint, and whatever compensation they ask for that forgery, I'll have to pay, right? So for that, I have to pay. Next, what will happen if I use a Linux operating system? Yeah, Linux operating system for which I don't have to pay anything. And as I said, it's open source. The source code of that Linux operating system is made publicly available. So I can install Linux operating system. I can use that Linux operating system for educational purpose. Also, I can use that Linux operating system for commercial use as well, right? So you are writing the programs for at a very small, this thing. What you are writing, operating these programs on a very small scale. You might have written a program to add two numbers. You might have written a program to subtract two numbers in microcontrollers, right? You are writing your own programs in the assembly language. Sometimes you may write in a C language, right? But imagine the thing where you are a production company who is manufacturing a calculator, and that calculator requires different set of program. Even though you are manufacturing calculator, you are having your own code. Of course, the source code is copyrighted. So if you are not having copyright for that source code, you will not be use that you will not be able to use that software on the calculator. This is what the thing is. You have to pay it, or you have to design it. You have to write the proper code by using your own software engineer. Then only you can use it. Otherwise, you have to get the paid version of software, and that software can be installed on the calculator, right? But for the Linux operating system, you don't have to do that. It's open source. You can install such a operating system on Raspberry Pi, right? So nobody is going to ask you why you are using this version of Linux operating system. Of course not. The source code is freely available, right? This is the meaning of open source, right? Is it clear, this first point from the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first point we have discussed. From second point onwards, we will discuss tomorrow in the next lecture. Now what we will do, I'll need 10 minutes to complete the test. So I will prepare the test in 10 minutes, and after that you will receive the link. There will not be lecture of VLSI. I will be taking that lecture, and during that I will conduct the test. For that I need 10 minutes. So you can take a break of 10 minutes. By the time I will share the link for test. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
The test will be on first unit MCQ test. Now, if you have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, we will stop here for today.